Hey everybody, this is Old Dirty Carpenter. We're on day 14, or the end of week 2 for this twin house build. Today we're going to finish this roof sheeting, and then I'm going to fully frame both of these gables solo on the basket. That'll be pretty much all the main stuff for this house, except for a few things here and there, like the side gables, but over the next couple days we'll get both of these houses completely done. So if you want to see all the way to the end for my first build series, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and let's get on with the workday. So just like every roof, we started off by popping a red line. I pulled that number off of the rafter at the top since I didn't have no fascia to pull it from the bottom. I make sure the overhang for my gable is correct, and then pull my normal 2-foot layout. I'm going to put a mark where the top of my sheet lies so then I can get an accurate number for the cut man. I have my red line for my valley, so I'll just pull it to there. And same with the bottom. It's just a basic angle piece. To answer a comment from a couple videos back about why we don't use 25.5-inch blocks instead of these 22.5s in between, we actually do reuse some of these blocks as spacers on the inside of the house when we're doing all of, like, the basic punch out stuff. We're going to sheet going up first, and then we'll get the bottom after. I got my normal spacer clips here for trusses. Alright, full bone. This sheet was getting stuck. I was having a tough time moving it. These gables are already plumbed in, so I do put some nails in these sheets. We got another guy on the inside doing some permanent truss bracing. They make you put all kinds of lateral and diagonal braces afterwards as well. Since I have a sheet to pull up from now, I'm marking 4 foot to get another top number. Then I give the next overhang piece to my cut man. Oh, that's grand.
Kobe, I know you don't like frozen foods a lot, but you ever tried the tortilla, like fried rice? Oh, dude. It's like 22, I think. It's killer. Just with like a bag of jalapeno chips and like dip it in there. Oh, dude, I fucking thing off, man. That's been like my routine when I get home now. Is that tortilla bowl and a bag of chips, like a small bag of chips. Oh, dude.
Tapatio.
Good way to start when you get home.
It's weird, I'm down like 3/4 for my number, but it was still correct. It's weird. Yeah, or for my line that I had.
You saying upright on this sill stud?
Oh, it's probably just supposed to reject the match. So you probably can do it from the line side just a little bit.
I got 37, about 25.
I do have that little triangle though.
Okay. Well, 26 3/4 down. If you keep your tape straight here and slide it over, you should be able to get an accurate number, as long as you don't slide it too far up the roof. Top 28 5/8.
Normally it's just a map. However, map one of the cannon boxes in the story. The boxes have a crazy support that really help out.
Last full road, then we just got like a 2-foot rip going.
Crazy. Is that right? It just moves like 3 times. Well, about I'm almost 80. So that's level? 99. Oh, really? How many characters can you have? I think 12. And you play the one. It's not yeah. I don't want to keep restarting.
At this height, I stopped pulling layout. Since the other side is already nailed, the trusses are pretty stiff at this point.
I see that.
Here is where the lower gable stops and the upper gable begins, so I have to start a new overhang because this will have its own fly.
So far, I'm looking at 2-foot rip. So far. Did you already get this? You're gonna have to go 72 and a half, and then there's gonna be a downer. Yeah.
Just transfer over where the top of that sheet will end and then pull down from there.
Looking at 29 3/4 down. Is what, David, or something? Really? Yeah. And then this one? Yeah, one side. Yep.
Got 6 foot. You got 8 foot, Seth. Sure.
Huh? Okay. So normally you want to keep those because that's what people want. Extra slots. So. Oh.
I didn't like how the sheet was breaking totally where this little truss ended, so I put a little block under here. I don't think I got the filming part of it, but I put it down there as a little scab. You got drying material? Should be able to. Bottom is 31. Top is 34. Sometimes. Yeah, like a dirty ass worm.
You got a back bar over there?
2 foot. It looks like 2 foot half inch over there. I don't know if you make one 2 foot quarter go out or. Oh, that's fine. It's only half inch. Yeah. Whoa. So then you can level up quicker and then you can still use that when you get to endgame. Okay. What is that? How about we keep that 2 foot? I'll use it over there. That's good. I might cut that down. I might want to cut that down 6 foot.
Oh, yeah.
I'll check. Yeah, cut that down 6 foot. For this number, I make sure I follow my 1.5 inch mark, and then I just go all the way down to that other roof. Yeah, if you want to rip it 2 foot 1/4, that'd be better. It's up to you. The top is 85 3/4. The bottom is 59 1/4. Yeah, I'll take it. Uh, 33 1/4. Compared to like not getting shit. Commons? Okay. I hit radon. MMOs for good years, kind of hit and miss. Some games I'll get really lucky. On the warrior? A warrior sorcerer. I like how you do that. Yeah. You can make anything you want. Let that level out. I like warmer. Bait footer. Now we're just going to sheet down it until we get to the bottom corner. It's way more annoying when you gotta slide sheets up into the clips instead of slamming them down. I'll get this one. I'll get one good. And it goes up. And go over for sure too. I have to keep pressure going up while he beats it on the left side, so we keep it tight to the top of the sheet and to the roof. I think it's alright. She's in like that. 28 5/8. Yeah, for the top. Could be like a triangle. Can I get it good? Yeah. All right. You might, or you have to pull back to back a little bit to get the last piece.
I'll try. Yeah, like a little bit.
It's like right in front of it. Or give me a little space. Yeah, I need to get down there for the measurement. Okay. I was going to get this sheet, but we're going to hold off because there's a bird box going on this bottom corner, so you'll see me build that here in a couple minutes. But at this point, we transition to solo as I frame the front of these gables. So with a normal wall, you just frame it, sheet it, and then paper it if you use that. And a gable wall is basically the same, it just goes all the way up to the peak of the roof. And instead of a normal fascia, we'll be installing a fly rafter at the end, which will mark the end of the roof line. So what we're looking at is the front of the garage. I'm basically sheeting the sidewalls and above the garage doors. When you're sheeting the front of the garage, it's best to stop your sheet right below the garage header, so then you could just lay your other sheet right on top. I also have a helper block under the header to keep the sheet up. So that's going to be flush right there, and then just make sure you nail all of your main studs and your little cripple studs. Most of the times, the studs should be following the layout, which is also these black marks on the sheeting. For this piece, I just used 2 helper nails. And I just double check to make sure that this will break on layout. Instead of sheeting all the way directly across the bottom, we just move up to reduce moving the machine too many times. For this to break right here, my sheeting will hit my roof sheeting, so I have to cut it with the roof pitch angle. Sometimes it's easier to just cut the sheet after you already put it on the wall instead of notching it out directly before you place it up. My battery died after marking this, so I had him take me down, and then we resume at the bottom row.
What? Yeah.
You gotta be careful and try to pin the bottoms of each side first, or else sometimes it'll wobble and get caught on your helper nails like this. It should just be another full piece. And definitely make sure you remove your helper nails, or else they will get in the way when you paper this gable.
I'm getting here.
I started using the level because my line was running out of chalk at this point. I went too far with my over number, so I gotta give it a little trim. At this point, instead of sheeting over the entire window, I'm going to do one sheet on each side of the window and then just fill in the middle part at the top. I just used the cutoff from the last sheet, and then I'll cut it to break down one of those chords. You just gotta mark a spot in the middle and then match it at the bottom for a straight line. When you're cutting up like this, or if it's windy, the sawdust will get all over you, so sometimes I take a second to get that all off. This will be a notched piece. And then for this triangle, you just need the total bottom number, and then you need the total up and down number. All you gotta do is mark the exact middle of the triangle, so then you could pop a line straight up through the middle, and then that point at your top is where your angles will come in together. And it fits perfect. Now we're going to paper what we got done so we can install the fly rafters. This paper is to help protect from the elements. After this, usually goes on siding. We're using the Stinger cap gun here, which we think holds the paper on better than just normal staples. I'm just going to make sure that this bottom follows along with that garage header and then go up from there. Then after getting a staple line all the way through the middle, you could pull on each side to get it nice and tight. And then make sure you're stapling all throughout the whole middle field. Wind will get behind that and cause huge bubbles, so it's better you make sure you have staples everywhere. So since we got paper on this section, now I could install the bird box and finish up the sheeting. And a bird box is basically just a little framed box shape at the end of a gable roof that helps finish off the overhang. The first step will be installing this small backboard ledger piece. I try to plane it with a rafter and then level it in, but soon I realize it doesn't plane with the bottom of the fascia, so I do have to change it. "12" would be the overhang for that right side where this outside piece will have to sit, and then this is where I realized the mistake. So basically I have to get the outside fascia piece of the bird box installed first, and then get my marks off of there and plane it directly to the wall. I try to get my mark to the wall with the level at first, but we quickly realized we should just grab the framing square. So if you slide this up the wall until it hits that, that should be the correct height. I wasn't thinking though, I went flush with the outside of the wall instead of butting up against the gable rafter where it should be. Each house is different, so these bird boxes won't ever be exactly the same. They'll have the same structure and design, but you still have to go by ear as you build it. That could be an inch and a half. What do you mean, like this? Yeah, I'm hitting. Well, I don't think that's 4 inches and a half. Yeah, I think I should give it that quarter. I make sure to set my saw depth at 1.5 inches so you're not cutting through the plywood on the wall. This? Got 22. To the outside of this? You want to be square? Huh? What, a little piece? What's this do? Just like that? I mean, I'm not playing with the rafter. Now we should be in good shape to get it finished correctly. These little triangle pieces are like tiny rafters. I noticed a small gap in the back. That means this wasn't raised up fully, so I just gotta make sure I lift when I nail the rafter to that backer piece. I have a little trouble nailing it first though. And lifting it made it to where it was at the right height. This little block just acts as a small joist to sit below the other rafter. And that's it. One piece of plywood will tie it all together. Then I could do that upper piece. This will just be a basic rectangular piece with a small nacho upwards. Then when I install the fly rafter, it'll sit on top of this bird box at the bottom.
Did you say you were giving me a piece or you want me to cut out of this?
I'm able to cut it out of this scrap piece instead of using a full sheet.
Yeah, I get it. Not.
Just a small gap at the top, but it's fine.
Take off what? Okay.
Now we're going to get a couple fly blocks on while we're here before we move the machine. I like to put my blocks on the seams of the plywood. That way it just gives it a little bit extra strength. And then also you know that your block will be at every seam when you go to nail it. You just want to make sure that it's flush or at the same height as the rafter or truss that you're nailing it to. And then make sure it's running parallel with it as well. I'm going to cut off a piece of paper for the left side of the garage before we move upwards on it. Same strategy, just get the whole bottom lined up, go all the way up near the middle, and then stretch out both sides. This piece of plywood needs cut before we paper it though. When you're papering up something that is higher than the height of the paper, you're going to want to have the top piece overlapping above that bottom piece, so then the water doesn't go down into the seam. That way the water will flow over the sheet to the next sheet like this. Last piece of paper for this gable, and then we could cut out the window. So here we got the fly rafter. When you're doing it solo, you got to kind of hold it in the middle. That's why we got a guy down there eyeballing the bottom. You want to leave this rafter about ½ inch or 3/4 inch above that plywood, so then the roofers could slide in their shingles and stuff like that.
You're kind of high on your
Then like I said before, I know that each of my blocks will be right at a seam, and then you want to make sure that that fly rafter is flush with the block. If it's not flush, then it'll mess up whoever's doing the siding or whoever installs the soffit. So yeah, for a small gable like this, you could easily do the fly rafters by yourself. When you got the really long gables, like on the sides of these houses, you usually have like 2 people. Persuaded the chambermaid of better paycheck on a get naked dance phase. I left the top overhanging just to make it easier so I could just eyeball it flush with the peak. So since we got this side all buttoned up, I can now finish the roof sheeting. This last piece is slightly over 4 foot, so that would leave like a small tiny little triangle right at that very bottom. Instead of doing that, I'm going to just split the sheets up and do it at about 2.5 feet each side. Huh? 49 half? 42 half, sorry. You're gonna come down this way? 38. Watch out or I'll gouge you. Once again, I gotta work this piece quite a bit to get it nice and tight to that roof. Oh, I see. I go try running across eyes, my eyes are better. I know what you're saying. Ah, it always looks good seeing sections of the roof come together.
So G shit. That's some G shit.
Now we're gonna get the same thing going on for the other side of the garage. I make sure I get the right end point and the right height off the fascia with the frame and square. I got the back piece good with the endo and then the bottom. Huh? Skin caps? Like this? Yeah. Is it long enough? Oh. Yeah, I did it. Yeah, I did that wrong mark. I forgot the block capped it again, so I had to move it an inch and a half. Next one. Okay. 35 and a quarter. He's gonna get my back ledger board cut so I could put up my little tiny rafters. One side should plane with the previous framing, and then you should just be able to level in the other side. These rafters weren't fitting correctly for some reason, so we did have to adjust them. Not too big. Pretty high, I don't know. Pretty high, I don't know. You want to try this way? Still not really matching these. Still not matching this other one. Not going to go out here. Huh? The gap is slightly different between this, but yeah. Well, I leveled it, but it's catching it. After a little bit, we got him to work. And this will just be another rectangle piece of plywood with a little notch going upwards. And that will be how you do basic bird box designs. Of course, they do get fancier with more angles and pitches, but this is how they look on many, many houses. But now we're going to get this side's fly finished up and then move on to the upper gable. When you're measuring out these fly rafters, when you already got one installed, you're just measuring up to the point at the top and then going down to the plywood. Sometimes it's not always accurate though, so we do have to trim a little bit off of this fly. This bottom cut has a bevel, so it follows the angle of the plywood.
Yeah, I saw some clips. Yeah, I saw like a clip or two on his shorts and he kept popping up. That's my other one.
It looked good at the top, and he said it looked good at the bottom, so we're going to get this nailed off.
You're up. A little more. Like that. Yeah, this thing's super wobbly.
So before I could finish off that plywood strip on that below gable, I have to get enough plywood on this upper gable to where when I run the nailer, it'll act as a pseudo rafter following that same angle. So I'm going to fully sheet this left side and go as far right as I can until it disappears behind that gable from below.
Hey, this battery's cheeks. That's pretty rude, but I got a 2 battery up here. A 2 banger I'm gonna use. Okay, don't. You're always like, don't use the battery, so just so you want it. What? The other half of it? Yeah. Yeah. Where I got this? Oh. I got the square boy here. You want the angle going upward though, huh?
Since these gables are both the same pitches, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my cutoff on my last piece. I'm going to just use that angle but extend it on another piece, and then I got to reverse it so then it goes upwards instead of down.
Oh, the window though. The window.
So I just have this piece hanging over. He's eyeballing it from the bottom, so it does go past that gable at this part until I reach the upper row.
Here, take over a little bit.
So same deal, I'm going to have this sheet flush with the side of the window, and then just going over enough until it disappears into the gable below. Then fill in this little square and the upper triangle. The triangle is only like a 2-second clip since my battery died at that point. So unfortunately I missed the footage, I guess, of me putting on that little nailer board. To get that nailed in the correct position, what I had to do was put a level on the gable and the fly rafter. I would slide it across both of them until it hit the plywood, then put a mark there, and then I had to pop a line for that 2x4. So it's just a basic nailer board which acts as a fake rafter. But just a couple strips of plywood and then we're completely done with the bottom gable.
Alright, take it down some.
If the gap is over 16 inches, it is best to use a clip.
What are you doing to me? Huh? I only did this one 6 foot. We need a battery.
I also get this last piece for this side as well.
1 second. Oh, what do you mean? I'm about to. Thank you.
I was looking for one last clip, but I couldn't find it. So to completely finish off these gables, we're going to get this papered and install these flies for the upper gable now. Kind of messed up a little bit with this paper. I guess the boss wanted me to go parallel with the angle on it, but I just went straight up and down, so no biggie, it'll just take an extra piece or two.
Yeah. 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 I thought it looked nice. Up straight. shaking up that run a little bit.
So I'm just going to pretty much get this papered and get the flies on. My battery does die in the middle of doing the flies since I did film a lot during this workday. You'll notice that this will be one of my longest videos. I did use every single second of battery life that I could. But that does about do it for all the main points of framing for these houses. Over the next couple days, we're going to get the right house completed just like we did this left house. And then you'll see me wrap around all the gables, get everything closed in and buttoned up as it should be. So just as a heads up for all those viewers who are keeping track of what we're doing, I got 3 more days of framing this all in, and then 1 window day where we do the windows and doors. So I really hope y'all have been enjoying this content. I've been having a blast filming all of this and putting all these videos together, and I already got 2 more houses fully framed and videoed. So if y'all been liking what you've been seeing, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. If you don't, make sure you let me know why in the comments. And of course, make sure you subscribe if you want to see what it's like to be a full-time rough carpenter. And if you're watching this, of course you're probably a better framer than me, so make sure you leave any tips, criticisms, or feedbacks in the comments as well. So I'm going to just let this video play out. This is Old Dirty Carpenter, and I'll see y'all next week.
'98. I have like 1 or 2.